If just finding things off social media isn't doing the job, then what exercises should you be doing? And the reality is, it depends. We don't really know that there's the best exercises out there that exist for impingement, because the important piece is what works for your body. That's the piece that I need you to focus on. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unchoreographed Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jenna Lower. And if you have been out there searching for the best exercise for your hip impingement or your labral tears, I am so glad that you clicked on today's episode, because I think I have an answer that might surprise you a little bit, but it's the one that you need to hear. I am a firm believer that there are no best exercises out there for hip impingement, labral tears, really any hip issue for that matter. I truly believe that it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. And so it's really important for me to get this message out there that there isn't necessarily one magic exercise that I think that you should be doing. To be honest, this is probably the number one comment that I get on my social media. So between TikTok, Instagram, the thing that people always comment is, thanks for the information. Now tell us what we should do. What are the best exercises? Tell me which things I need to try for this. And the reality is I'm probably not ever going to do that. And it's not because I'm trying to gatekeep anything. It's really the exact opposite. It's because I'm trying to make sure that you actually move forward and that I'm not just feeding into the noise of social media. I really want you guys to get better. And it's really important for you to understand kind of the method behind why we do what we do. Because the reality is what you have been doing up to this point hasn't been working, right? That's probably why you found me. That's probably why you're listening to this podcast or watching this video right now. What you've been doing hasn't been working. So let's think about it from a different angle. Let's think about what could we change and what could we do that actually gives you a process that makes sense and actually works to move you forward. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So my guess is, up to this point, things that you maybe have tried. You've maybe done some physical therapy where they told you to do some exercises, probably banded side steps and clamshells, maybe some squats, told you to get your glutes stronger, so you probably did some bridges. Maybe you tried that. Maybe it felt like that really wasn't doing anything for you, so you switched it up and you said, let me just piece together some exercises off Instagram. I found these people that seem like they know what they're doing, so I'm going to just grab these exercises, save them in my folder, and I'm just going to try them and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what sticks. Maybe you're Googling things. You're probably asking your best friend, ChatGPT, and all of that is great, right? Like, technology is great. It connects us. It allows you to get more information at your fingertips, which I think is wonderful. But the problem is, and you've probably been experiencing this, all of that random stuff that you're doing is giving you random results. Maybe you feel a little bit better, but something still doesn't feel right. Something still isn't clicking. It still isn't solving your problem. Maybe it makes you feel better temporarily, but long-term, you're still not getting back to all the things that you love to do. And the reality is that the way that you're doing things, it's not going to get you back to the things that you love doing. Maybe for some people that strategy might work, but the vast majority of people, I'll say it a million times, random rehab equals random results. There is no clear progression of what's actually getting better so that you can get to those goals. So what works? If just finding things off social media isn't doing the job, then what exercises should you be doing? And the reality is, it depends. We don't really know that there's the best exercises out there that exist for impingement, because the important piece is what works for your body. That's the piece that I need you to focus on. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. So there's a lot of things that go into this that make an exercise the correct thing for your body. We have to look at what are your main issues? Like, what are your symptoms, right? Is it pinching on the front of the hip? Is it pinching on the back of the hip? Is there no pinching? Is it just a pain? Is it an aching? Is it radiating, right? There's so many different symptoms that people can experience where you're feeling your pain. Some people have the pain in their hip. Other people, it's somewhere else. It's in their low back. It's in their knee. I've seen people where it's all the way down into the foot. So we have to look at where are your symptoms. What type of impingement do you have? Is this a structural problem that we're dealing with that we know we can't change from the outside? Or is it a functional problem that's truly movement-based and how you're stabilizing and using the movements? Is there labral tear involvement? Is your labrum fully intact? Or is there a tear that maybe is sort of getting caught in there when you move certain directions? What are the movements that irritate your body? So, again, for some people, a lot of people, hip impingement, the main irritating factor is hip flexion. So something like a squat may feel really irritable. So we don't necessarily want to just start doing the things that are irritating the hip more, but we know we need to get you to a squat. So we have to find a way to help you move so that you can regain flexion in a pain-free zone. But that depends on where in the range you feel your symptoms. And because some people can tolerate that squat with no problem. Other people, it's extremely irritable. So we're not just going to give everybody a squat. We have to look at, does it work for your body? We also need to look at, what are your imbalances? Is it a mobility issue? Is it a stability issue? Is it a coordination issue? Is it truly a strength problem? So there's a lot of different things that can go into this. And I think the last thing that we sort of need to consider is, what are your end goals? If you are a dancer, we have to make sure that the exercises are going to eventually work you back towards your dance-specific movements. Now, I would argue no matter what the activity is, we need to make sure you can move as a human first, and then we move more into the sport or the activity to make it more specific. But eventually, you're going to have to get to the point where there's going to be some things that help you get to the goal of dancing again. Maybe you're a runner, so we know we have to move the needle in the direction of, I need to be able to run again. So in that example, I need to be able to do single leg movements, right? That might look really different from somebody who's trying to just be able to pick their kid up off the ground, right? There's so many different goals and outcomes that people want. And so the exercises sort of need to be tailored to that. So there's a lot. As you can see, I just listed off a whole list of things that we need to consider into choosing the proper exercise for your body. And that, again, is why I'm a firm believer that I shouldn't just be throwing exercises out there and saying, hey, try this. Hey, this is my go-to exercise. While I definitely have some of those that I do with my clients, I think it's a really slippery slope of just putting them up on social media. I feel like the content that is the best exercise for X, or if you have X, do this movement and watch the pain, all of those things, I just feel like that's failing you, because the reality is it's clickbait. It's a lie. It's not necessarily truth, because it is not custom to your body, right? And even if it's not something you're finding on social media, even if it's something you're finding on ChatGPT, still not custom to your body. So maybe those movements will work, but are they the best things for you? It's pretty hard to say. Patterns, again, are far more important than the actual exercises, because the thing is, there's a million great exercises out there, but we have to know what's the muscle we're trying to target, where is the problem. So if we have confirmed, okay, yes, there seems to be a stability issue in your deep hip rotators, well, now we have an endless list of possible ways that we can strengthen your deep hip rotators. Everything from clamshells all the way up to maybe a standing hip airplane to deadlifts. There's all kinds of, there's a million different things that we can do to target your deep hip rotators. But what we need to know is, what muscle do we need to target? And then we need to make sure that you can find the muscle that you're actually trying to target. because I can do a standing hip airplane or a clamshell and know, okay, I'm supposed to be targeting my deep hip rotators, but is that where I'm actually feeling it? And I would tell you that the majority of my clients who are struggling with labral tears and impingement, they can't find those muscles. Even though mentally they know they're supposed to be, they still can't find them. And so we have to be able to change and modify the movement to put you in a position that allows you to feel those muscles working without you having to try so hard. Because otherwise you're going to drive yourself crazy. And you're also not really going to get better if you can't feel what's supposed to be happening or eventually be strengthening what you know you're supposed to be strengthening. And the harsh reality is you're not going to get any of that off social media. I think social media is an amazing place. It obviously brought you to me in most cases. I think most of you guys are coming off social media. It allows me to reach people and help people that I never would be able to help. But there's still a big missing piece of the puzzle. Can we do a lot virtually? We sure can. But it needs to be, in a sense, at least semi-customized to what's happening in your body. It's pretty hard to just put a blanket statement on, do these things. I think there may be times where I do share exercises with you and I'll say, hey, like this is one of my go-to things that I love to do for my hip, or my clients really like this exercise. One thing I will never claim though, is that it is an exercise that you need to do or you have to do. And I think if you are seeing that from people, influencers that follow online, I would be cautious around doing it. If anybody is claiming this exercise is going to take your pain away, or this is the one thing that you need, I'd be cautious on that, because I just don't think anybody can actually claim that. And so we have to be careful there. This isn't me either, like not sharing these things. It's never me trying to gatekeep anything. It's just that I don't want to set you back. I want to give you the information, but I don't want you to do something that potentially could make it worse, or even that you just wouldn't see results with. So that to me is a waste of your time and energy. And I don't, like I said, I don't really want to contribute to the noise that is out there. There's a lot of noise on social media, a lot of do this, don't do that. And it can be very overwhelming. And so my job is to make it less overwhelming for you. So again, if we know, okay, maybe I shouldn't be just grabbing these random things that I'm seeing and there isn't one better exercise, then what should I be focusing on? And again, I've already said it, but what I want you, the biggest takeaway is how you move is more important than what you are doing. So there are a million great ways to do there are a million great exercises out there. You just need to make sure that you're doing them with good patterns and you're doing them in a way that changes your actual symptoms, because no two people are exactly the same. So we want to make sure that it is helping your situation and they're not just things that you're doing and feeling no reward for. That's, again, it's a bit of a waste of your time. So how you move encompasses things like, are you staying well controlled through the entire range of motion? Do you even have adequate range of motion to do that exercise or, whatever the movement is? Are you able to control it really well through the range and feel stable? Are you just focused on, if it's a single leg thing, are you focused on just not falling over, or are you actually feeling the control happening? Because in that case, maybe we have to start on 2 feet before we can go to 1 foot. Are you understanding which muscles are even supposed to be doing the movement? Where is it supposed to be coming from? I think this is a really big problem that I see in standard, like traditional physical therapy, is that people, physical therapists will give the exercises, but they won't necessarily explain why they've given it or what the client should be feeling. And so it leaves you kind of feeling like, yeah, they gave me these like group of exercises, but I don't really know if they're helping. I don't really know why I'm doing them. I'm not really sure how this is even going to get me back to running. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. And even if the therapist has a rhyme or reason behind it and there is a pattern, if they haven't shared it with you, it still doesn't make sense. So you have to understand, why am I doing what I'm doing? So it may just be a conversation with your therapist of like, hey, what is this for? What is this going to help me with? they should be able to explain that to you. If they can't explain it to you, then that's a different conversation. They should be able to very clearly articulate to you in a way that makes sense. Hey, here's the progression of what we're doing, why we're doing it. Here's where you are, here's where we're going to go. And if they can't tell you that, then again, you might have a bigger problem there with the therapist that you're working with. So those things should be really clear and evident to you at all points, whether you're working with a therapist or you're just trying to do this on your own. I think, again, while there are some movements that are important, and we're actually going to talk about that in the next episode, like what are the common movements that I do think are really important, keep in mind that two people can have the exact same symptoms and I can give them the exact same exercise and they will have a completely different outcome. So maybe I have two people that have labral tears and impingement, they get pinching on the front of the hip, and I give them squats. One person may have completely full range of motion, zero pinching, zero problems in a squat. So I can start to load that movement, have them do it weighted, and like it's helping them. It's not making things worse. While the other person, exact same scenario, that pinching comes on more intense when they do their squat. So am I going to give that person weight and load that exercise? Am I even going to have that person do a squat? Maybe not. Maybe they're going to do a different version that will work them towards the squat. So same person, different people, same symptoms, same exercise, different outcomes. So this is, again, why just because you see somebody squatting on Instagram does not necessarily mean, okay, I'm going to squat because I have hip impingement and that's what's going to make me better. It's a little bit more convoluted than that. And I think it's important that you understand that. So the things that I want you to pay attention to are your own movement patterns, understanding how your body moves, how it responds to movement, what sort of increases symptoms, what eases the symptoms, and do the patterns of the way that you move correlate to what your symptoms are. Making sure that you're not just pushing through exercises because somebody told you to do them, but if they're painful, that you understand how you can either modify them or adjust to a different movement that will eventually get you there without just flaring symptoms. I want you to pay attention to finding control in your movement before you start adding intensity or weight or, resistance, making sure that you have full mobility and you can control through the full range of motion. Again, doesn't matter what the exercise you choose, as long as it's targeted to where your imbalance is and you're doing it with good patterns, you should be in a good position to see some progress. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's not the answer that people want. It's not the, hey, do these 3 things and you're going to get better, because it's so much more specialized than that. It's so much deeper than that. And I hope that if you are working with somebody, that there isn't this expectation that you're going to follow this and it's just going to get better, but that there is adjustments and modifications being made to your body and how your body is responding to said exercises. In the next episode, next week, we are going to dive into a little bit about some common patterns that I think should be included in everybody's rehab when they are doing impingement and labral tears. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the exact exercises that you need. But I do want to talk about the patterns that I feel are extremely important for not even just hip pain, but like anything lower body. Like we know that there's some functional movement patterns that are really important. So that episode is going to drop next week, where we'll talk about those 3 movements that I think everybody should be doing. In the meantime, if you have things that you know are working, keep doing them. If you are trying to piece together the exercises and grab them off of wherever you can find them, and you don't feel like you're actually making any progress, just know that it may not be what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Random exercises equals random results. There has to be a strategy. There has to be a progression. You have to make sure that it all makes sense for you, your body, and your goals. Rehab isn't just a list of exercises. Rehab is a process, and you need to be walked through that process and through that strategy. Last thing I'll say on that is if you guys are interested in knowing like what is my strategy, how do I walk people from point A to point B and take them through my framework, which is called the core framework, I'm going to drop a link in the show description of my most recent webinar, which was where we walk through basically my frameworks. So you can have a good understanding of the process behind what I do and how you can maybe start to implement that for yourself. So I'll drop that in the show notes. Hopefully that's helpful. And then be sure to join me back here next week, and we will cover 3 common functional movement patterns that I think everybody should be in some form, including in the rehab. So I'll catch you guys here next week. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your day.